welcome to another exciting episode of Javier in the Air. So, today's podcast, I actually have someone that I interviewed. So, it's not just me going on and on. So, hopefully, that will be a little bit more exciting, unless you just like seeing me a lot. And then you can go back to the other episodes and see me there all the time. So, I have the wonderful, the beautiful Tracy Mack. She's going to be on, and we're going to talk a little bit about the military and her being a part of it, and then also her podcast, which is why the title of the episode today is 106% single. So she'll talk a little bit about that. So let's just get to it, and we're going to go with interview Hav straight to Tracy and Hav.
Hey, thanks a lot, Podcast Hav. This is Interview Hav, and I am here with the great Tracy Mack. And we are going to talk a little bit about herself, her adventures in the military, and her audio podcast. So, Tracy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and talk a little bit about yourself?
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Tracy Mack. I have been in the Army for just over 12 years. I joined actually because I was living in Long Island, New York. I was working for a retailer. I was working for Old Navy at the time, and on 18th and 6th. And every once in a while, I would wander to the World Trade Center to get some Krispy Kreme. You know, when the lights on, you get free donuts, right?
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had just bought a really cool condo on the intercoastal of Florida. So I decided to go visit because I'm like, well, that's fun, right? So I went for a weekend, and I woke up the next day and I was horrified like everybody else. And I was a complete civilian at that point, and I don't have really anybody in my family that's ever been in the military. So it was awful. And I did my best to, get through it. Like most people my age, right? Who remembered watching it on TV and the news and the whole bit. And I went back to the city, and it was really sad. And then I just went on with my life. And then about few years later, about almost 10 years later, I was a personal trainer at that point because I wasn't happy in my civilian job. And I was looking for extra income because the economy had changed. So a friend of mine recommended the military, and I thought she was crazy. But at that point in time, the age cutoff was 42 and I was 36. So I made it. So I joined and loved it ever since.
Excellent. And what do you currently do for the military?
So at the moment, I am a recruiter. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm a recruiter. So recruiting, on a serious note, recruiting is actually really important because if we are able to keep volunteers joining the Army and, the Navy, Marines, Air Force, then we're never going to have to do a draft. So it's actually important to do. But when you're in it and you're doing it, it could be really stressful. That's why I laugh, because it's important, but it's pretty stressful. I would love to go back to Iraq and Afghanistan. That's a different kind of stress.
Different kind of stress. Totally. Well, I'm sure as all my viewers would be, we thank you for your service and for actually doing the recruiting part. Especially, I didn't know that that's one of the reasons why we don't have a draft. I mean, there's obviously other reasons, but you're right. If people aren't volunteering to join in the military, eventually we're going to run out. Mm-hmm. And then, now, of course, they won't recruit this old bastard, but I do have young nephews and nieces that would, impact them if they ever did that. So cool. Mm-hmm. All right. So now you're from San Antonio, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And I'm from San Antonio, and I love interviewing anybody and everybody from San Antonio because it's just San Antonio. So, tell me some of your favorite spots when you go back or when you were growing up in San Antonio that maybe only San Antonians know. But there's a lot of people listen and watch my show are from San Antonio. So,
wow, that's a really good question. So I left when I was 19, and I've really only gone back to visit my mom. So of course my mother's amazing, right? Not that you're going to go to her house, but it's a really good question. Only San Antonians know. I would say my mom's house, right?
Well, there you go. Good plug for the mom. Way to go, mom. Way to go.
Yeah, I mean, when I go, I visit her. Her cooking's amazing. She's sweet. My favorite person on the planet. So I go visit her.
Okay. Hey, that worked. You know, it's changed so much over the years. I mean, I go back because my parents live there. And when I go see my mom, I'm like, what's that? And what is this? And how, is that even what? And that's how it is nowadays. I mean, it was already a big city when we grew up, but it's even ridiculous now. So
I believe it.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Okay, so let's see then. Let's I want to talk about your audio broadcast or podcast. I don't podcast covers audio and video, and so I kind of interchangeably. So before we go into crazy rambling on, let's talk about your podcast, the name of it, why you chose the name of it, and then what it's all about.
Yeah, so I've been single for going on a year and a half-ish or so, and it was unexpected. And, you know, like most people, I think when you have like an unexpected breakup, you're kind of like lost for a little bit, right? So I started doing a lot of thinking, a lot of reading, which was great because I'm like happily reading again. Anyway, so I was like, you know, trying to figure out what this all means, right? Like not to be all philosophical, but it's true. And a friend of mine recommended dating because she's like, okay, you're sad, get over it, right? Like at a certain point.
That's great friends tell you to do.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, that's enough. So I don't know. So she flew in one weekend. She lives out of town, like the army. Most of my best friends like live in different cities and countries, which is actually really cool, by the way. But so she flew in one weekend and she's been single for a while. And she was like, okay, you know, you're sad, but we're going to change all that, you know? So we had a couple drinks in my house, music. My dog was there. It was awesome. And she put me on my first dating app because I had been married for 12 years. So before my marriage, dating apps weren't like a thing, you know? So she put me on my first one and the rest is like history. I've had so much fun doing it ever since. And I used to share a lot of my life on Facebook. I mean, I still do, but at that point I shared a lot. And whenever I would post like a funny date or funny story from a date, I would hashtag it 106% single. And the 106 to me was just funny because I was so single, actually like greater than 100% single. So I don't even know where the 6 came from, but I just thought it was really funny one day. So I stuck with it. So then I made it like a little hashtag on Instagram and Facebook and just went from there. And years ago, my ex and I had a podcast and we just got really busy. He was deploying, I was deploying, we couldn't keep it up, but I really loved it. And when I started doing like the percentage or not the percentage, the hashtag of 106, two people, I say a few, but literally 2 people reached out to me and they're like, you should write a book, you know? And I was like, that'd be cool. But I don't feel like I have that intelligence, even with like a ghostwriter. But I remembered, you know, the podcast from years ago and I decided to go ahead and give it a shot. So I think I've recorded 7 episodes. It's only weekly. So I think 4 are published right now.
That is correct. Yes, I have listened to them and I will post the link on an earlier ring. I will put it on the end credits so that people can see where to go.
Sweet. I appreciate that. It's fun. So I named it 106%.
There you go. There you go. It's just 6% more than 100%. It's just that much more to being single. I'm not just single. I'm 6% more than single.
Yeah, I literally don't know where the 6 came from. It just sounded funny. I don't know.
It is funny. It's great. I get a kick out of it every time I hear it. So there's also one piece at the end that I really want people to know about, that you actually talk about veteran-owned businesses. Can you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So when I co-hosted the podcast before, it was called Veterans Cafe Podcast. We interviewed people that were helping veterans in various ways, whether it was clothes or services or, you know, what have you. So that's what we started to do. Like, we thought we were funny, especially when we were having a couple drinks at home, right? So that's why we started the podcast. So the podcast was just us BSing. And then we would do some research with current events. And then we would try to help veterans in some way. Sure. So I really like that mission. So hopefully we did help a couple, who knows, right? But so when I decided to do this one, I wanted to kind of like keep that same mission going. So so far, since I'm only said 7 episodes in, I think 4 are published. So far, all I have done is like an unwrapping, unboxing, and I'm just doing my best to make people aware of various veteran businesses.
Right. No,
in case they don't know, you know, in case they don't know.
Right. Now, are you finding local local veteran-owned businesses? Are you trying to find some from like all over the country, or how do you find it? How do you find a business in the first place so that you can promote it?
So mostly through Instagram, to be honest. So I don't like shopping in stores. I'm just like one of those people. Like I'd rather be online. Like I hate shopping in stores. So when I moved to New York, I needed a plunger. I actually ordered it from Amazon.
Nice, nice.
Anyway, so Instagram is where I found a lot of veteran businesses, or it's items that I've bought in my past, or it's I've had a couple of I'm grateful. I've had a couple of like businesses contact me and they'll be like, try this and you can give us a review.
Oh, that's great.
But mostly Instagram, to be honest.
Yeah.
I love Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, online is the way to go. Has been for the past, 14, 15 months. So that works out great. I just got something delivered today and I don't even know what it is. I don't remember what I ordered. I have no
idea. Like Christmas.
I know.
That's nice.
Christmas every couple of days. I mean, and I'm not even getting drunk. I'm just getting old and I'm like, I don't remember what I ordered.
Mm-hmm.
What did I order? It's a surprise when I get downstairs. It'll be nice. Cool.
I like it.
So you talked a little bit about your dating. Now let my viewers know that you have a numbering system for these current dates. So,
yeah. So I like to. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that always makes me laugh because a few people have asked me that, and so I've been divorced, right? So I started dating in July of 2020, right? Yeah. So my dates start from July 2020 to today, to present, right? And even though I like to share a lot of my life and I'm an open book and I don't mind sharing a lot, I do respect people's privacy. So I don't want to put like people's names on there and I don't want to tag people, right? Specifically, it's a bad date. So I just thought, hey, I went on first date number, whatever. And then it just went from there because, my friends and family thought it was funny.
Nice. That's great. And some of them are really like, we can't even get into it here because we'll be here all night. I mean, some of them have just been really hilarious. So I highly recommend listening to Tracy's podcast so you can get the number. And there's going to be a number tomorrow from what I understand. So we may hear a little bit on one of the upcoming podcasts, depending on how it goes.
Yeah, so... It's true. Yeah, tomorrow will be 54. So you'll have to tune in to find out, right?
54. See, my number is not as great because like before I started doing this podcast, I did beer reviews for friends of mine at the boutique, plug the boutique in Cedar Park. And I did 100 beers in 100 days, a beer a day for 100 days. Every beer was different. Every beer was unique. I would say probably 80 of them I never had before in my life. So there was styles and flavors and ABVs and some were ciders and some were just stuff I've never had. So it got exciting that I had 2 or 3 people were like, why don't you just do a podcast and start doing something that you like and talk about beer? So that's what I do. So I have people like you on the first part of the show. And then I have a beer review on the end.
I like it. I think it's awesome.
I'm up to about 142, 143 beers now, total.
It's pretty good. I mean, that's awesome.
And we've one a day before my mom freaks out. One a day. She's like, Mijo, why are you drinking so much? And I'm like, one a day, ma. Don't worry about it. And now it's one a week. I mean, I have a couple more, of course, with when my brother comes over and stuff like that. But that's a whole different story. We don't want to get mom involved in that one. So that's great. So now your last podcast, I wanted to bring it up, I believe had to do with, I want to say, was it background checks or was it just passport security?
Yeah, number 9. Yeah, I foolishly, now I'm very naive, took everything he said to be truth,
Yep.
So this was, of course, just my ignorance in starting to date again because he was only number 9, right? But literally, like everything he said, I believed him at face value. And I know that makes me sound naive, but that's true. So I ended up realizing that he was not single, but I didn't know that for a while.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing in general how people can obviously get away with that kind of garbage. So
yeah. So I mean, obviously, whoever can listen to that episode, but because of that episode, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I want to find out a way where I can save myself some time.
sure.
I mean, just time and energy and effort, and like, who wants to, meet somebody and be tricked in some way, that I don't know. So that's when I started realizing that I am actually really good at social media stuff. It's a new skill. I'm really good at it.
No, that's great. That's great. I myself had a friend, and you can share this on your podcast if you want for additional feedback. I had a friend, a coworker of mine when I lived in Georgia, and she actually paid for, because she was into network security. So she actually paid for an official background check software.
Wow.
That she could then check. She could then check their backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you'd be surprised. I'm like, no, I wouldn't. And she's like, no, you'd be surprised how many of these dates were either married or, bounce checks and DUIs and stuff that were all matter of public record. Mm-hmm. And she's like, it pays for itself. Now, this was about 10 years ago, and I think she was paying like $45 a year for this service, which was easy. So she had some where she would, and I'm like, well, do you not go? Do you, there wasn't the term ghost back then. I was like, do you just not, never talk to him again? And she goes, well, it depends on what is going on. So she found one guy that was married, and she's like, I'm just going to not even bother. But then she found one guy who had, was not paying his child support.
Oh,
and
man.
So she met him at the restaurant, and he was like, hey, baby, what's going on? And she's like, I know you're dodging your child support. I've let your ex-wife know where you live now, because they couldn't find him. And I was like, well, that's pretty grave. I mean, I'd be more concerned about, him retaliating. And she was like, nah. And I was like, okay. So that DUI arrest, and then of course there was still the social media, which wasn't as large back then as it is now. But it's so easy to find. And if you're someone like her who's in network security, ways around ways of pulling up information. And she was like, she's like, I even pulled you up, Javier, and you're clean as a whistle. How did you even do that? Well, why did you look me up? And second of all, yes, clean as a whistle. So, but it's very interesting. She showed me my report and everything. It was only, it was short, but it was like, really, you had all that information? So I can imagine nowadays to protect themselves and yourself, women out there, and maybe even some men, if they really want to, pay for this service, or just with the social media, like you said, you can find out so much about someone, and they don't even know. Like if you make your Facebook page public or post anything public, it's out there for like the end of time now. So you actually have to go in there and scrub to, like, you literally go in there and scrub your data, which really most people don't know how to do anyway. So, but yes, I totally agree with background checks and, maybe not DNA, but I mean, fingerprint off the glass and you're dumping it to your friend and you're running off.
That's a little extreme.
I mean, in this day and age, I just wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I know someone who does not like to leave their drink on their table if they're out with someone. They'll take it with them to the restroom or wherever they go, just to be on the safe side.
Wow. I have never even considered anything to that extent.
I didn't either. I was like, why you take? And they're like, I don't leave my drink at the table. And I'm like, okay.
Wow, that's interesting. I wonder if something happened to them or something happened to somebody they know. That's interesting.
Well, it's that, and you read about, that happening, and if you don't know the person that well or something, So there's a good idea for you for tomorrow for 54. You can be like, no, I'm just gonna take it with me. I'm good. And he's like, you're not leaving, are you? Nah, I'm just taking this with me. It's all good. Pound down the drink thirsty before you go to the restroom.
Yeah, that's more my style anyway.
Yeah, there you go. And then you're like, can you order me another one? And you just head on out. That's great. That's great. Well, great. So let's see. We
That's so
pretty
funny.
much covered
I like
all
it.
of that. So where do you see yourself going with this podcast? I mean, you see yourself doing this for quite some time. Is it just a short period for you? Is there something else you're trying to achieve for it, or is it you're just having fun?
So honestly, I'm just having fun. I invested in some decent equipment, and I invested in like a website. Like I actually bought like 106%, like so that name, things like
Yeah,
that, in case I did decide to keep it going like long term.
sure.
So I own certain things now. The music, I bought the music. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. My ex and I did 30 episodes, and I loved it, and I love networking anyway. So I always love people getting connected with with one another in some way. So it might just morph into something else. Like I think I'll keep the name forever. Um, I don't know if I'm going to keep going on first dates till the end of time, right? Like at some point, I'm
You're
going
like,
to either
okay,
be
date
like,
number 607. You're
exactly.
horrible.
So exactly. So
Yeah.
at some point, it'll probably morph into something else. A few friends of mine that are single and younger than me have started asking me if I could share some flags and some safety tips and stuff like that. So it might just end up turning into something like that, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Hey,
You
that
know?
sounds great. Okay,
Yeah.
so before we wrap up, there's two
Hmm.
questions I like to ask everybody that I interview,
Okay.
and I know you're a big movie fan.
Hmm.
So, what's a movie, or give me? I know it doesn't have to be the ultimate. Let's see, which way should I go with this? What would you say is your favorite movie of all time? One that you can watch again and again and again. Doesn't get old. You see something new every time you watch it.
Hmm.
Just makes you laugh or makes you cry or whatever it is. What movie would that be?
Hmm. Hands down, the original Jaws. I can see that every day and
Real.
never get bored. Never get bored with the original Jaws.
That is good. That is good. I don't think I've
Hmm.
had anybody say Jaws before.
There's something. It's like to me, it's just magical. Some of it was ad libbed. I just love that movie.
Yeah.
I love when they sing. I just love it. Love the whole movie, and I love that it was mostly an accident of how great it ended up being. I think that's one of the things I like too, because I'm sure everybody knows by now. Spielberg couldn't get the shark to work, so that's why he kept prolonging when you would see the shark.
Yep.
But that actually changed movie history and like the way they shoot things now. I don't know.
Sure.
That's my
Sure.
favorite.
Okay. Excellent. Now here's one that may be interesting for you that I get a lot of interesting answers on. So, what's a movie that you love to watch, kind of like your secret movie, that people would be surprised that you love to watch, that you love it?
You can be surprised that I love. Hmm. Oh, I actually just talked about this the other day with somebody, and they hadn't heard of the movie, and I was like horrified because I've seen it a million times. I would say Vanilla Sky with Tom
Oh, Vanilla
Cruise and
Sky. Nice,
Penelope
nice.
Cruz.
Tom
Yeah.
Cruise in
Hmm.
it and Penelope Cruz.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a remake of another one that was done in Spanish that she was also in, but I love that movie.
Yeah, and I think the soundtrack was done by Amy Mann.
Maybe I don't know that, but maybe.
Thanks.
And I love Cameron Crowe, so.
Yeah, and in fact, no, that's not one. I think there's a movie that they took songs from Amy Mann and actually wrote the movie about her songs. Yeah, I
I'll have
know.
to Google that. I don't know that.
I'll have to see if I can find that one. So, and then of course, bonus question for you because I know you like science fiction. What's your most loved science fiction film of all time?
The original, The Day the Earth Stood Still. I love Gort.
Wow, like
Love Gort.
19.
41, I believe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
I love the message behind it. It's kind of the message to me is timeless.
Yeah.
And
Respect.
and I love Gort.
I mean, that's a good one. Hadn't thought about that one in a long time either, but yeah, I can watch that one again. I might have to now that we're talking about it. So, all right, so
It's
great.
good.
So everybody, this again, Tracy Mack, catch her podcast, and what is it called again? 106%.
106%.
106%. Catch it. She's out there everywhere, aren't you? As far as where you post.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. I think I'm on 18 directories right now.
Wow, so that's better than me. So,
Yeah.
but it's great. Listen to it. If there's something that you want, one of the businesses that she talks about, you can find out that from her. I will post her site also at the end. And I thank you for your time today, Tracy. It's been great. Hopefully we can do this again soon when we do movies or something else. I'll bring you back on so we can do that.
I like it. Sounds great. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. All right. We're going to send it back to Podcast Hub now. So take it away, Podcast Hub.
And thanks, Interview Hub. So that was the great Tracy Mack and, of course, Interview Hub talking about the 106% single, a little bit about her podcast, and definitely just some back and forth that we had about there. So really great to have her on the show. I'm glad we were finally able to coordinate our schedules and get it going. So let's see, what else should we talk about? So there was some craziness going on this weekend here in the Cedar Park, Austin area. There was a shooting that happened late Friday night, actually early Saturday morning, I should say, like 1:30 in the morning. 13 people were shot. It was horrible. It was a travesty. Thankfully, nobody I knew was part of the injured, and hopefully everybody that listens to this podcast, everybody was safe as well. So just some of the craziness that's going on in the world today. So if you saw my interview and you want to be interviewed, be sure and direct message me either on my YouTube channel, Javier in the Air. Hopefully you're a subscriber, or you can send me a message on Facebook, or you can just reach out to me if you have my number. Once again, I will interview you on just about anything and everything, except for religion and politics. Those are not allowed on my show. And why is that? Because it's my show. And so, but if you have a business that you want to talk about, or you are selling stuff from home, a little home business, or you have an actual brick and mortar location and you want me to come out, now that most of the restrictions have been lifted for COVID, I am more than willing to go out and interview you at your location. So just reach out to me and let me know. Of course, within reason. If you're not even in the state of Texas, I think it's going to be a little difficult for me to get to you. So, but everything else is probably up for fair game, especially if you have a unique and exciting place that you would like to see things done. So I'm actually I don't have anything for my vegetable garden. However, as I look out and I see my grapevine is doing well, my corn is doing well, and my beets are doing very well. Now, what type of grapes are you asking? I don't know. We will find out. Hopefully, I have about 3 or 4 bunches of grapes. They're struggling right now. I don't think I'm watering them enough, so I'm trying to water them more, even with all the rain that was going on. I'm switching to 2 days a week to water. Hopefully that will give them a boost that they need. I need to get some more soil on there as well. And you saw the other day the new framing that I had. I also put up some more wire to try to get it to train on the wire itself. So the tried and true method of doing that is having as you have the branch, the vine itself, and say this is the vine, you want to have it a wire going across about 3 foot from the bottom, and then you want to have a wire going across at about the 6 foot section. So my vine isn't really that large enough to be able to do that, so I'm kind of at like the 2 foot section, then about the 5 foot section. So hopefully that will work. I'm trying to train it on there. I'm gonna have to go out here again and put some of it back on the wire and hope that it will stay. We've had some hard rain and some hard wind, so it keeps knocking it out. So maybe I can get that going. So I still have some other projects in the works, and we'll get a chance to see those perhaps later on in the year. And so now we're going to get to actually, let me let me do a Zen moment before we get to the beer. I like to do that before we actually get to the beer part. So let me get the Zen moment going, and then we'll go to the beer. So here's your Zen moment. Hey everybody, so there was your Zen moment for the day, for the week, at least until next time. So I hope you enjoyed it. If there's something else that you'd like to see me do for the Zen moment, please just let me know, and I'll get it on the air. So now we've come to the beer portion of the show. So this is the peer review section. I believe we were on number 142. And so we are looking at, I know I've had a lot of stouts on here. I don't know if that's just me lately or what, and a lot of chocolate stouts and a lot of that sort of thing. But once again, here we are. This is Untitled Art. This is their chocolate raspberry imperial stout. This is canned by Untitled Art out of Waunakee, Wisconsin. I hope I have that right for you people out in Wisconsin. If you don't, please let me know. This says here it's imperial stout with raspberry puree and milk sugar. So that will be rather interesting. And then it is 11% ABV. So the good thing, the cool thing about Untitled Art of their cans is that they put a lot of work into it, and they actually have artists give them artwork that they can then put on their cans. So for this chocolate raspberry imperial stout, I want to show you the can, which is really very cool. So let me, there's the Untitled Art, and there's the chocolate raspberry. And as you see the artwork there, I'm going to go around the entire can so you see the entire artwork. And I'm going to keep going so I can get to the actual artist. And this is artist Heather Hailstones. So thank you, Heather, for the really cool artwork that you gave or was donated to, or I don't know how they do it, for Untitled Art. And so that's pretty cool. So now 11% ABV. It's the middle of the afternoon, so I think it's time for that. So let's see what we get. Nice sound effect there. So I'm going to pour this so that you can see it. Nice and dark, as stouts should be, in my opinion. Most stouts, by the way. There is a golden stout that I love, but for the most part, this is what we get here. Wonderful raspberry smell you get instantly out of the can, and you can smell it also when you first open the can. Definitely a high raspberry smell still of the beer, in the beer itself, in the glass. Dark finish. You can't even really see in there, so you know it's gonna be good. Oh, really? It really is like if you ever had a raspberry chocolate bar, like high cocoa content or cacao, depending on how you want to say it. This is it. This is really good. But it tastes like you're snacking on one of those bars. that has a high amount of like raspberry in it, and you break off a piece and you take a bite, and instantly you get that raspberry tartness with the chocolate, smooth chocolate on the back end. Nothing wrong with that at all, other than it tastes really sweet. So if you're not a fan of sweetness in your beer, even for a stout, you probably aren't going to like this. I recommend you try it though. Maybe share a can with a couple of friends so that you're not having to do it all yourself. I will be doing it all myself, so I'm okay with that. Rob probably won't like it that much because it's a little bit too sweet. So he would drink it, but it might be a little bit too much. We'll try to get his opinion on it at some other point. Really good. So I'm going to finish that up. I'm going to go ahead and give this one. I might have some controversy here amongst friends and family and other people who have had their untitled art. Let me get it there. Untitled art there. This is, again, their chocolate raspberry imperial stout. I'm going to give this 9 thumbs. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 thumbs up. That's right, 9. It's been a while since I've given anybody a 9, but I'm going to give this Untitled Art Chocolate Raspberry Imperial Stout a 9. Really fantastic. So that's our beer review for the day. If anybody has any differing opinion, please direct message me or put it in the comments on my YouTube channel, Javier in the Air. You can also find me on Facebook. I have a private channel because that is my personal Facebook page, but I may create one, a Javier in the Air Facebook page here soon. However, if you do have me on Facebook, you can message me there and give either an assenting or a dissenting opinion on that beer. If anybody would like to talk about beer, perhaps do a panel or something, I like to go out to the Brewtique. By the way, this was also found at the Brewtique. They have all sorts of beers that, if you're a beer connoisseur or you just like to drink beer and you want to try something different, head on out to the Brewtique and talk to Scott and Jana, and they will set you up and set you up well. So if anybody ever wants to go out there and meet me for a couple of beers, we can talk about beers, have a little review, even get on the show, and we'll go from there. So still looking at trying to get a partial co-host from time to time so that we can bounce ideas and talk back and forth, and I'll set something up here hopefully soon, especially now with the restrictions most of the restrictions that have been lifted. I'm going to try to hit a brewery or two this coming Friday, so I will let you know how that goes, and hopefully I can get it onto the show. So I hope everyone is having a good Sunday. It is stinking hot out there. Welcome to pre-summer. If it's any indication of how summer is going to be, which actually officially starts next weekend, Father's Day weekend, by the way, then we're going to be in for a pretty horrendous hot summer. And unfortunately, I lost my tree in my front yard, so my grass is just going to bake and die, and we may have to watch the progression of its life cycle here on the show. So I got to stop for a minute. Hold on. Oh, so good. So feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to subscribe to my channel, Javier in the Air. Feel free to go back and look at some of the episodes. I think I have the description down pretty good of what they are, also in the title. So if you see something you like and you'd like to see it again, or you'd like to see someone that was on the previous episode and you'd like to see them on again, then just reach out to me and I'll try to set something up with them. So once again, I want to thank Tracy Mack for being on the show today. I'm going to put her audio podcast deets at the end there, on the end credits. So I hope everyone has a good rest of the week, and I'll have something for next week, which is basically Father's Day. So everybody have a good week, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.